There aren't many memories that top the excitement of waking up on Christmas morning. Now that we're older, you can still capture a piece of that joy by surprising everyone on your list with peppermint roses from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, 1-800-Flowers will give you an extra half dozen roses and a vase absolutely free. That's up to 40% off the original price. Peppermint roses are the perfect holiday surprise for the special people on your list. This beautiful bouquet in a rush of holiday white and red roses will leave your loved ones stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. Amazing roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers.com are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, plus another half dozen roses and a vase for free. It's an unreal deal, but it expires Wednesday. There's 1-800-Flowers.com, and then there's everybody else. You know who I trust and depend on for life's most important moments. To order 12 peppermint roses for $29.99 plus another half dozen roses and a vase for free, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. Hurry, offer expires Wednesday.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of getting 2 W's on the road or catching the home run ball without spilling your drink. Double boom. Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Monday morning. Glad you're here with us on Golic and Wingo. Hope we're easing you into the work week as we get closer and closer to the holiday season. Things are festive. It's a Festivus for the rest of us out here. We got our decorations
Did
up.
some Christmas shopping over this weekend.
I did too. I sat on my computer and click, click, click.
Did you? We actually went out into the.
You went into the masses.
We went into the masses.
Why?
Don't know. Hadn't been out in the masses in a while.
Did you go to the mall?
We went to the mall.
Oh man.
You know, but
that's a commitment.
There wasn't a ton of pressure of, oh my God, I gotta. You know, there was just kind of. So it wasn't awful.
You just wanted to be among the people.
I did. Long line for Santa.
Yeah. Did you sit on Santa's lap?
I had to wait 20 minutes.
Okay, it's good to know.
You know what they had? Yeah. Not only Santa, they had Mrs. Claus.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is probably good because you had the babies and stuff. Mrs. Claus was much better with them than Santa. It's exactly
than
right.
the giant, hairy, scary man.
There you have it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Lots to get into today, obviously, with all of the things that happened in football over the weekend, with the crazy finish by the Steelers, what we are bracing for, really bad news for the Eagles in that situation with Carson Wentz. Looks like he may be gone for the year, but there is also massive baseball news.
Yes, there is.
With what happened over the weekend. Giancarlo Stanton going to be traded from the Marlins to the Yankees. Derek Jeter, secret double agent maybe, working down there in Miami. A lot of people may feel that way. So we're going to get the perspective on both New York and South Beach on this, and we're going to start with the New York perspective, which is probably the more optimistic of the two. Mm-hmm. Michael Kay, host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York 98.7 FM, joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Of course, Michael also calls the Yankees games. So, Michael, what was your initial reaction when you realized you're going to get a lineup that includes Aaron Judge and now Giancarlo Stanton?
Well, I was just excited because I figured you guys would have me on today, and then I could be the first one to wish Golic a happy birthday for tomorrow. So that was my thinking.
Oh, you're a good man, Michael. I appreciate that very much.
Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very fun lineup, and it's going to be tough for pitchers to pitch to. So, my home run call is Sia, so that's going to be sickening for a lot of people because there might be 250 of them this year.
And listen, you have this to talk about. I don't have to talk about the Giants and Jets anymore for a while, thank God, with what's going on there with them. When Derek went to the Marlins, did almost every baseball, if not even layperson, know that they were probably going to trade Stanton because they just had to restart with the money situation?
Well, I mean, their situation financially is so dire. This team is going to be stripped down to nothing. I think most people knew that because they were losing so much money, and that wasn't, bookkeeping. That was real money that they were losing, and, they spent $1.2 billion to buy the team. So something had to give, and you figured that Stanton would be the first one to go, but instead it was D. Gordon, then it was Stanton. I wouldn't be surprised if they turn around and they trade Castro. Because he's owed $22 million over the next 2 years as well. They need to just break it down to almost nothing. And I know he's going to be the bad guy in South Florida, but somebody has to do it because this is not a sustaining organization paying that kind of money. They just don't draw that sort of crowd, and they don't have the television revenue coming in the way other local markets do. So this is what they had to do, and Derek's going to take the hit for it.
Well, he certainly is. And look, a lot of people are wondering, 'cause the whole thing, Michael, is a little weird. Like, baseball helped him sort of get involved there. And of all places, it goes back to the Yankees. I'm sure this is going to be the biggest PR hit maybe he's ever had, because he never had anything like this in his playing career.
No, it was all positive as a playing career, and now he's in a situation where his desire to win is not the only thing. I mean, this is a business as well. I almost think it's laughable, though, that people think, he's doing this to help the Yankees. They had a trade first with the Giants and the Cardinals, and Stanton turned it down. The previous ownership not only gave him a $325 million contract, they gave him an absolute no-trade clause. So when he said either the Astros, the Dodgers, or the Yankees, they had to trade it to one of them, and the Yankees actually put the best deal together, which was not a great deal for a guy who won an MVP. So I don't think that Derek is trying to help the Yankees win. He's trying to get out from under it with the Marlins, and again, he's going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, that is the one thing we're to remember, that Stanton did have the choice with the no trade. We're talking to Michael Kay of ESPN New York 98.7. As far as the team, Trey and I were actually talking about last year with the Yankees. Right. They almost feel, which is weird to say for the Yankees, kind of the feel-good story. This young players on the team, Aaron Judge, everybody loved this guy. They weren't supposed to really be there last year. Then they knock off my Indians, which is the favorite, and they make the move that they made to almost making it to the World Series. They're like, oh, kind of a feel-good story. Are they back to the evil empire hated team, not because Stanton's a bad guy, but because here they are loading up with all the talent again?
Right on the nose, Mike. I mean, exactly what happened. They were the baby bombers. They were the little engine that could, and now that's not the case. So they are the evil empire again. Because when you look at this deal, did they really need him to compete this year? The answer is no. But you'd be foolish not to make a trade like this because he's such a great player, and they gave up so little, and they have somebody that can slide in and play second base for Castro. And the objective to get under the $197 million threshold, it's still there, and they will get under the 197. They still have enough money to get one more starter, and that completes the team. So, yeah, now they will be looked at this behemoth where they're a team that everybody can root against. And last year, you talked to a lot of people that were historically not Yankee fans, and they go, wow, it's tough not to root for this team. Now people will start to root against them, and they will be the hunted rather than the hunter they were last year.
Well, look, they're used to this. This is sort of modus operandi from how they were winning all those World Series from 96 through 2009. So, I mean, this is sort of the way it was always perceived with the Yankees, Michael, which made last year really so refreshing in a way. But it seems like we're back to that. Behemoth might be the best, or monolith maybe. This just monster that's just going to go out there and, like Drogon in Game of Thrones, and just breathe fire on everybody.
Well, it's interesting. The organization has always been this, Trey. But a lot of the kids that were on the team last year that made it so fun, this is going to be new to them. They did not come into cities where they were reviled. They did not get booed all the time. People actually did like them. It's going to be interesting to see. How does a Judge handle it? How does a Bird handle it? Severino, Sanchez, those guys were never the bad guys. And now they are going to be the bad guys in this situation because of the addition of Stanton. Can they handle it? They probably can handle it, but it's going to be new to them, that's for sure.
So let's keep having fun and go 3 years down the road. Who's going to be the star of this team, Judge, Stanton, or somebody else? And by somebody else, we mean Bryce Harper.
You know what? That's the one thing that, when you look at this deal and you break it down and you try to see the pros and the cons, Bryce Harper's probably going to get $40 to $45 million a year. So is Machado. And although this deal will look suffocating when you do it right now, next year at the end of 2018, it might not look that bad because it looks like a bargain if he continues to put up those numbers because I think the market's going to continue to go up. I think this probably eliminates them out of the Harper deal. Yes, they want to get under the threshold this year, but Hal Steinbrenner said on my show last week, he said, I truly believe that you can win a championship under $200 million a year. So even if they get under 197 this year, adding Harper would not make him 200. It would make him 245. So I'd be very surprised unless they do some trading of high salary players that if they'd add another big bat like that. And if you're going to choose of all the people that are available next year, the guy that would probably be more desirable for you would be Manny Machado to come in and play third base because Headley's contract would be over.
Michael Kay with us on Golic and Wingo. Of course, he has the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York, 98.7 FM, and also calls the Yankees games. So this lineup, we know it's going to be stacked, okay? Again, these four, Didi, Sanchez, Judge, and Giancarlo, I think I hit 169 homers last year. The The entire Red Sox lineup hit 168. So where's the flaw right now in this Yankees team as it's being built? Where do you see one thing that may slip them up? Because now everybody is basically going to assume they're just going to beat their way into the World Series.
Well, in the lineup, Trey, I don't see any kind of negative. I mean, really, Headley's probably going to bat ninth, and Didi Gregorius, who batted fourth last year, probably going to bat seventh. So I don't know if there's a real landing spot for any pitcher. If you want me to say, what you would be most concerned about as you're putting the Yankees together, maybe their starting pitching, which I think is pretty darn good. But you are asking me for one negative. That would be the negative. Do they have a guy who's going to be a number one starter? Is Severino going to be able to repeat what he did last year? Is Sonny Gray going to be better in a full season with the Yankees than he was last year? Are they going to bring back CC Sabathia? Those are the questions right now. I think they're in good shape in terms of that, because when you look at this lineup, they are not going to have to pitch a lot of shutouts to win. The other negative, I would say, and I think you see this a lot in the playoffs, guys, there's a lot of home runs in that lineup and a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah.
And usually when you survive on home runs, and you can really hit a lot of them against the underbelly of pitching in Major League Baseball during the regular season, in the postseason, those home runs don't come as easily, and also you get a lot of strikeouts. So how will they create runs? That would be it. And again, it's nitpicking, but this is not a team that's going to create runs. They're going to bludgeon opponents.
So the man that gets to put this lineup together, Aaron Boone, the new manager of the Yankees, obviously the family history in the league is, everybody knows about it, but it's his first time managing. What are the biggest hurdles for him as a first-time manager in New York with the Yankees that he's going to have to deal with?
I think the whole thing is going to be new and different for him. If you're going to bet on a guy, you bet on a guy like Aaron Boone because he's smart and he's a good communicator. But how is he going to react in the seventh or eighth inning when he has to make a decision, who to do in the bullpen, who not to go in the bullpen? So I think that's going to be the key. And it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. And I said this when they signed him. I believe this guy can be a really good manager. None of us could swear to it. You just, again, you look at the things that he brings to the party, and he certainly has all of them. But this guy's just got his driver's license, and now you're tossing the keys to a Lamborghini, which just got stronger and faster with the addition of Stanton. So I think the hardest thing now, Mike, will be he has a pressure to win. This team was not built to get to the playoffs. This team is now built to win the World Series, a lot different than last year's team.
Absolutely. Yep. Expectations are going to be through the roof, and we'll look forward to a lot of see-yas this year, Michael, on the Yankee games. Mike, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much.
Michael Kay, host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York 98.7 from 3 to 7 in the afternoon, and, of course, calls the Yankee game. So
see ya.
There's
going to be a lot of
those.
Yes, there
will.
Be a
lot of those.
Yep.
And maybe some of those strikeouts that we saw from Aaron Judge won't be there anymore because there's going to be a lot of protection around him in that lineup. Not everyone has to swing for the fences on every swing,
But that seems to be where we are now. Knock it out of the park or strike out. And you know what? Everybody seems to be fine living with it, especially when you're knocking out 50-plus home runs. You're okay with that.
You're exactly right. So obviously they're giddy in New York. I'm assuming it's the exact opposite feeling in South Beach. And Dan Le Batard of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz now joins us here on Golic and Wingo. And Dan, listen, this has got to feel like lather, rinse, repeat for anybody that's been with the Marlins since 1997 or so.
Well, it's offensive, the way they run this business is, and that baseball's allowed it, that baseball's allowed all of this, that they gifted a franchise to Jeter, that Jeter overspent on the franchise, that the franchise was so misrun that it had a lot of debt. All of this was supposed to stop. They told us when the stadium got built, they told us that this was going to stop. And now the most unpopular owner in the history of South Florida sports has got people even more agitated than they were before, because the betrayals never stopped down here. It's a foolproof business that baseball got. It's like a racket. It's a racket. They gave Jeter a team, even though he didn't have the money for a team. Jeter's paying himself $5 million a year. That's as much as Cashman now makes. And his first move is to just get rid of the bad business decision he already made by buying all of this debt, by just getting rid of all of their good players. And while I understand the need to get rid of that contract, they promised us when this stadium was built in our broke-ass city, they promised us that this stuff was going to stop. And right now, it's worse than it's ever been.
So, and I completely agree with you. So let's just start with the Jeter getting the team. Was there, I guess it couldn't have been a shock knowing the situation the team was in, Are you still surprised that he did all the wheeling and dealing and dumping the money that he's done, or was that expected given the team he took over?
Well, no, he announced it. It wasn't expected because we were told this would stop. Not that it would be worse than it's ever been. They can't afford anything. Jeter's coming out here with his hand out. Like, Jeter has this name, and baseball gave him a gift because they want his name around this team. And the other buyer, a Cuban guy from Miami, planned to have a payroll. He planned to spend, and baseball gave it to this guy. And Jeter overspent $1.1 billion for a franchise in South Florida that nobody cares about. Like, they pay $1.1 billion because baseball's running a racket. I'm telling you, they gifted this to Derek Jeter in a way that should be bothersome to anybody who cares about competitive sports.
Dan Le Batard with us from the Dan Le Batard Show. Stu Gott's coming up after we're done here on Golic and Wingo. Dan, I think you just hit on it. You said it was a team that no one cares about, and now they're going to care about it even less with this trade. I mean, how do they try and find any sort of excitement about this franchise being there at this point?
Well, but Trey, the reason they don't care, like the reason that you've gotten to a place that's even worse than anger, where it's sort of indifference, it's the worst place a fan base can reside.
Right.
It's the worst place a business can reside, where you've just gotten to a sort of numb indifference because of the number of betrayals like this. This is such a weird thing to have champions, multiple champions stripped down, to have the MVP of the league and to say, in his prime, and to say, when do you ever see the MVP of the league in his prime? Sorry, can't do it. The Marlins, guys, listen to what I'm saying here. The Marlins have had two of the worst trades in the history of baseball, right up there with Ruth. They traded Miguel Cabrera, and now they've traded the replacement for Miguel Cabrera, the guy who became Miguel Cabrera. So no franchise in the history of sports has done that. Like, that's never happened before, where you have these. You trade Ruth once, and it stays with you for 100 years. They've traded Ruth twice in the last 15.
So I guess in totality here, not to make it all sound even worse, but the trades that go on there, you had obviously LeBron down there winning a couple championships, and that's all gone. The Dolphins aren't relevant at this point, even though they were in the playoffs last year. I mean, as far as really challenging for something, what is the South Beach sports fan? What are they looking to? What are they looking for? What can get them up to a positive note, if anything?
Drugs.
That may be an honest assessment.
I mean, seriously, I mean, fans are buying tickets there for either the Dolphins or Miami or for the Marlins. I mean, is there? Do you see 5 years from now?
Painkillers, Oxycontin.
5 years from now,
something with a numbing effect, I think, is what we're going for.
So
here.
We're all numb now. 5 years from now, do you think there'll be anything to look forward to?
They should have. They should have like an anesthesia night at the ballpark. They would get a crowd if they were to do that. You could come in and
Pink Floyd playing in the background, so we're all just comfortably numb. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like the ushers would say, "Look, the betrayal. You won't even feel it. It won't even hurt. The betrayal. You won't even feel it."
One night and everything will be fine.
Oh man.
Well, it does bring a bigger look. Obviously, it stinks in Florida, but in a bigger picture, what do you think this is for baseball? Because there will some that will say, look, hey, the Yankees are a brand. The Yankees are the most popular brand, and having that team once again a lineup like this is good for the game. What do you say?
Yeah, of course it's good for the game. Yes, it's good for baseball to have these two giants in that media market with the most famous uniform in sports. Those pinstripes still matter. Like, of course, it's good for the sport and it's good for the national sport. But, like, it should be it feels like Wall Street fraud that the former Yankee, the famous former Yankee, and some people who are listening to this are going to say, well, they tried to trade him to St. Louis first. They tried to trade him to the Giants. No, he told them from the beginning he wasn't going there. He told them New York or Los Angeles is where you need to send me. The problem is that they didn't have to trade him. They think they have to trade him. They didn't have to trade him. They traded him.
Right.
But we're in a place where you've got Derek Jeter, former famous Yankee, aiding his former team in a way that makes him, Mr. December. And I'm telling you, what happened here with South Florida, we all in South Florida should have gotten one of those famous Jeter gift baskets Sunday morning. after the way that played out.
Oh, all right, Dan. On a lighter note, just to leave you maybe with a smile. I
and
agree.
The prospects aren't any good.
Dan, I'm trying to make you smile one more time before we say goodbye.
Good.
Outside of that making you smile, I agreed with you when you had Ron McGill on, your animal guy. It's a chicken playing the piano. I don't know how the keyboard. I don't know how you can just kind of go over that like you did and say it was almost a no-brainer that you could be able to figure it out.
Thank you. Yes, for those of you who don't know, there is a chicken that can play, like, I don't know whether it's a xylophone or a piano, and the zoo guy said it's not that impressive because you could just teach a chicken, with food and stuff, and it was playing songs. It had learned how to play songs, and so I tried to explain to him, it's a chicken.
The chicken.
The chicken's brain is not, like, it's a chicken. I don't care. I didn't think chickens could learn that way, but thank you for bringing some light into my life.
I agree with you, Dan. Thank you.
If we did nothing else this morning, that's what we were hoping to do.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks very much.
See
Obviously, a very disgruntled fan base, and understandably so.
Well, I mean, they have nothing to hang. That's why I thought if there was any way you could hang on to one of them, it would certainly you would think Stanton, but that's obviously the biggest paycheck out there to have some kind of draw. But man, I mean. There's zero. There can't be any hope out there at all of the people they're getting rid of. You're the biggest bopper in the game right now, and a good dude. You're letting him go, along with others as well. I mean, how can you have any hope whatsoever down there?
And the worst part is, this is like the third time.
Yeah,
and it's the worst one. It may be the worst, as Dan was saying too. Like, that was the best point he made. We've done this before. We've traded Babe Ruth before.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And they said it would be different.
No. Instead, it's going to be lather, rinse, repeat.
Yep.
It's going to be tough, and we'll see how that shakes out going forward and throughout the season. Coming up, a predictable award that led to a guarantee from a strange place, although I think he may be right.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value, installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSB, and EasyPay. Activation and early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF001121, Louisiana F1639.
That was Baker Mayfield, as we thought he would, winning the Heisman Trophy over the weekend. Congratulations to him.
I thought he did a nice job, too, up there. I thought Billy Sims maybe a little too much with the boomer, yelling in the back there.
It happens.
Might have been a little.
What is he, the 6th Oklahoma? I think
6th, yes.
Wow. Good for them. Congratulations.
Still behind Notre Dame. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
No, it was a thought bubble.
Did I say that out loud?
It just popped out.
I'm sorry about that.
No, don't be.
But, hey, he did not get the highest percentage. That's still, again, I think, was it 91.6?
Troy Smith, yeah.
Troy Smith, he got, I think, 86% of the vote. Deserved to win it. Everybody thought he was going to win it. I thought did a nice job with his acceptance speech as he gets ready for the playoffs. So, and then beyond, which the playoffs I think are going to be a ball to watch. And then, boy, oh boy, the ranking and the things that are done for players who the only thing they'll do after the bowl games is put on shorts and a T-shirt.
Yep.
But boy, oh boy, how they will be picked and prodded and evaluated.
Oh, listen, it's crazy. Golick and Wingo presented by 30 for 30 Podcasts. Subscribe right now to 30 for 30 Podcasts in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Delta, making your travel experience informed, connected, and seamless. Keep climbing. I've always said this, Mike. There should be 2 drafts. One right now or after the bowl game. However you want to do it. Right now after all the bowl games are over, and then one in April when it actually happens, and see how incredibly different those 2 drafts are going to be.
Could not agree more. My wife was just talking to me yesterday. She says, you guys should write down any analyst that comes on, any quarterback, talking about quarterbacks, and what they say right now when the season is over, and then what they say in early April, and if it changes. Because what's going to change outside of, all the stuff at the combine, there are some things I can see. If you get a guy up to a whiteboard, how does he diagram it? What does he do when you're looking at film with him? I can understand some of that. But, man, to me, the best evaluation, it is nice to talk to a person. I understand that. But the best evaluation just happened.
Yeah.
Just happened.
It was the
still,
film.
And it's still going to happen in the bowl games and certainly the playoffs. But that's the best evaluation of a player you can get.
Well, listen, there's going to be a lot of evaluation on Baker Mayfield because of the amazing run he had. And, look, he's been great for a couple of years at Oklahoma.
Yes, he has. Absolutely.
Let's be clear about that. But, there's a lot that goes with this guy. And our insider on the NFL, Adam Schefter, made a guarantee regarding Baker Mayfield yesterday.
I saw Todd McShay had him ranked as the 27th rated prospect. I will guarantee you right now, Baker Mayfield is going in the first round of the draft, and I will bet you he goes higher than people think. They love his competitive spirit. They love all the skills that he brings, the flexibility that he provides. He's drawn comparisons to Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, same stature, not real big. But what's interesting to me, and here's what's always funny, I've had at least 3 teams say to me, the quarterback we really love is Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
And when I start hearing that,
with Rosen and the idea of Darnold there.
I'm telling you, when I start hearing that, that tells me that guy is going to go higher than people expect.
Yeah, and again, people understand this is not him with a hot take.
Right.
This is not him guessing. This is what Adam is hearing from people that he's talking to, and it sets up for a fascinating quarterback draft. I mean, you have Darnold, you have the Joshes, Rosen, and Allen. Mm-hmm. You also have Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State, who's got the frame.
Right.
Lamar Jackson. I mean, there are all kinds of quarterbacks in this draft, and now you throw Baker Mayfield in the mix. It could be one of the most fascinating first rounds we've seen in quite a while.
I'll be interested when the grades come out. More now what the grades are going to be. And by the way, another congrats to Baker Mayfield. I'm pretty Riley is confirming it all for me. The first walk-on, I believe, to win a Heisman. He walked on. He walked on twice. Walked on at Texas Tech and then walked on at Oklahoma as well. So really, again, kudos to him and what he has done. And I think one of the reasons, because we sit there and talk about his side, the other guys we're talking about that you mentioned, Rudolph, Allen, Rose, and Darnold, these are all like more the prototypical 6'4", 6'5", anywhere from 220 to 240.
The Carson Wentz body.
Type of a guy. Baker Mayfield's, I think, listed at 6'1", which we'll see is even 6'1" when you get to the combine, and 220. He's a solid kid, that's for sure. But one of the things we're seeing now, and I think it's the right way to go, while we're not turning it into college football in the pros, what you do, and I think it's the right thing to do, is you take what they do best. It would seem to be, instead of saying, okay, we kind of like what we see out of you in college, we envision you in the NFL, now go into our system and fit our system.
Right.
Is you have to kind of let them morph into what they're going to be while making them an NFL quarterback. And still, for the most part, there are a few exceptions. Certainly, why am I drawing a blank on Seattle? And
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, where you're running around like crazy
because
making things happen.
Yeah.
But remember a couple of years ago when Cam Newton won the MVP, we talked about he and Russell Wilson, how they both improved in the pocket. You still have to be able to fire the ball from the pocket to win in the NFL. But teams are taking advantage of the athletic ability of quarterbacks. And Baker Mayfield can make stuff happen. And normally you would say, listen, if you're making it up on the run, you're not going to make it in the NFL.
Right.
You're just not going. You can't just kind of draw it up. You know, you run to the park car, you run to the fire hydrant.
Make a left at the bus stop.
I'm going to spin out of this thing, and then we're all going to converge here. While it can work occasionally, you can't make a living off of it. But you can use these quarterback strengths, and that's one of Baker's strengths, to get him out of the pocket, to get him on the move. He is dangerous out there. So I do think that's becoming more and more in vogue, and I do think it's the right way to go. Use their talents to their best capable abilities at the next level. So I could see that out of Mayfield. Listen, players love him. I mean, he seems to be
those two linemen, when he missed 2 plays, brought out his jersey for that one game.
Here's the thing: you want me to sit there and say because the people in Kansas wouldn't shake his hands and he grabbed his crotch that I'm going to say, oh my God? No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. I don't care about that. That doesn't bug me one bit. You can rip me all you want for that. That's fine. That is not going to go, well, I can't believe he did that. I'm not going to pick him. No, that's not going to happen. I'm looking at what he does on the field. Now, if he has off-the-field issues, that's something that you have to look into certainly as well. But that's not one of the on-field things I'm looking at and saying I'm going to downgrade and that's going to cost him some spots. Not in my book. So he has really done well for himself, and I think it will be a real because Marcus Mariota kind of, but he was bigger.
Yeah.
He still had a little more size to him, and you see they're really now. He's not having a great year this year.
No, he's not
at all. But we saw what he can do, and they've really helped use his athletic abilities to his benefit, or they had early on in his career. We'll see where it goes from there. And I could see the same thing happening with Baker Mayfield.
Well, the interesting thing with Mayfield is obviously he has that undeniable competitive spirit.
Yep.
And the results have been there. The questions about his size, I think, are legitimate when you look at the speed along with the size, because the one thing about Russell is he's pretty fast.
Yes,
Russell
he
Wilson.
is.
And I'm not sure Baker is running the same 40 time as Russell. And
right.
while you normally say with a quarterback that's not that big of a deal, but with the way Baker plays
yes.
and the way Russell plays, that becomes a bigger
deal. Don't want them taking hits at all.
That becomes a bigger deal. And look, whether it's right or wrong, people are going to say, I see a little bit of what Johnny Manziel did.
They are.
In Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And the question then becomes, can Baker avoid the traps that Johnny Manziel fell into? Because they both sort of like make it up as you go along kind of deal, that all wild-eyed, crazy, all that kind of stuff. There is a little bit of that. And when you saw what happened with Manziel,
right.
There's going to be a really tough evaluation, I think, of Baker Mayfield along those lines. But if you're going by his production on the field and what he can bring, I think what Adam is hearing is actually very accurate. I mean, this draft is going to be phenomenal in terms of the interest from the quarterback's perspective. But I do wonder, because I've said this a bunch, running quarterbacks are like dogs that chase cars and long putts for pars. They don't last. Unless you're Cam Newton, who is 6'5" and 250
right. So he'll
pounds.
last a little longer,
right.
than most. So we'll see. The best thrower in my book out of the group, throwing the ball, and there's some good throwers in this, is Josh Rosen. But there are questions of him. How much does he love the game? What type of leader is he really on and off the field? I mean, everybody has some questions, and I know those are a couple of questions about him. But I'm looking at on the field and throwing a ball. They all have had their big moments of throwing the ball, and they all, because we've talked about Rosen and Allen and Darnold the most, they've also been a bit disappointing as well this year.
Yeah.
Sometimes more disappointing than we thought they were going to be. But every now and then when they make those throws, they all throw the ball really well. I think the best thrower, I do believe, is Rosen.
Actually, be a great Twitter question on Golic and Wingo. Would you want your NFL team to draft if you need a quarterback, would you want your team to draft Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have one of those more pocket passers that we're talking about with Darnold, Rosen, and Allen? We'll put that up on Golic and Wingo. See what you think about that. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, some NFL games we haven't gotten into yet. A big win for the Panthers. And is it closing time in Chicago for the coach already? And, of course, more on the snow game, which, by the way, because of everything else going on, we haven't talked enough about that.
I agree.
That was phenomenal. We'll get into that.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Rolling on Golic and Wingo, glad you're here with us. Lots to get into, and we just had the story with Baker Mayfield. Adam Schefter believes he's going to go in the first round. We put it up on the Twitter poll. Would you want Baker Mayfield to be drafted by your NFL team? And right now it's a 50-50 split almost. 51% says yes, 49% says no, 600-plus votes. We'll keep you updated on that throughout the day. I want to just let everybody know what something just happened here. It's been a story all year long. The NFL, declining ratings, conflict, PR hits, blah, 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 blah. They're in trouble. Well, maybe not so much as you think, because Verizon just re-upped their deal with the NFL for streaming and digital rights, and they doubled their price over the next 5 years. It was about $1.2 billion. It's going to be a $2.5 billion deal.
As I'll say again, because we just had Dan Le Batard on to talk about the Marlins and South Beach and sports there, but he had also, we were going over his comments last week when he said, the NFL is in a worse spot now than they were 6 years ago, right?
Yep.
Am I saying it was 6 years ago? The NFL is in a worse spot, and as I said then, it's what you're looking at. If you're looking at from a PR standpoint and the hits the game have taken,
absolutely,
I would absolutely agree with you. If you're looking at from a money situation, 6 years ago they made $8.5 billion, and now they're making $14 billion, and Verizon is doubling their price tag. We have streaming games that are going to jump into the fray and add more money. So I guess it's the way you look at it. Ratings are down, no doubt about it. Is that costing them money? They're still making way more money than they were 6 years ago. So that will be the question is, how are you looking at it? What is your definition of better or worse, successful or not? You know, if you're running a company and your bottom line close to doubled over 6 years, you know, you're going to be happy. But for those that say, well, money isn't everything, well, money's important. There's no doubt about it. But people like to be liked, and you like to be looked at as a league that everybody likes. And still, it's very, very popular. But it has gone through the washer. There's no doubt about that. And getting hung out to dry in a few of these situations. So it all depends on how you're looking at it, but it doesn't seem the money stream is stopping anytime soon.
Well, that's the thing. And look, people look at the ratings. If you want to take an actual look at the television ratings for the NFL and compare them with declining viewership across everything, they're almost identical. They're literally almost identical. So the fall in NFL television ratings, whatever it is in no way any different from the fall of anything else on television, because we as consumers are getting things in many different ways now. You know, there's a whole generation that just wants everything on their phone or on their iPad or on their computer, and that's enough for them. So the idea that those numbers signify something specifically within the NFL just don't match up with the actual numbers.
In the same vein, though, you have to give, like, the NBA ratings are up.
Yes.
You know, they're not going down.
Correct.
Like other sports channels and non-sports channels. They're going up. So a lot of times you compare within your world of sports, and I know baseballs have remained somewhat flat, which quite honestly, flat would be good.
Yes, absolutely.
But basketballs are going up. And kudos to them and what they're doing. And right now the NFLs are going down. So as I've always said, it depends on what your definition of, am I successful, more successful than I was 6 years ago? If you're talking money, yes. You're talking PR, no. So which do you hold on to?
Well, I get the question then becomes, what's the longer play?
Right.
You know what I mean? Which one is the longer play? And if you're the NFL, and I think they're trying to address some of these things, and, you know, quite frankly, from a PR perspective, what happened over the weekend Sunday, there were a couple of things that weren't really good. The Tom Savage issue that we've been talking about, and we'll probably bring up again with Ryan Clark when he joins us in the next hour. And then the issue of what happened at the end of the Seattle game in Jacksonville. From a PR standpoint, that doesn't look really good. But at the end of the day, does that PR still take away in a significant way from the fan base and the business model? And this Verizon deal tells us no, it doesn't.
Yeah. So if we sit there and say that the NFL is not going to lose any money, that they're only going to get more money, would you say, okay, then they're a successful business?
Yeah.
Or for a lot of people that and there have been, because ratings are down, that aren't watching it anymore, do you view it differently? Interesting.
Well, it is. And I can't remember which president it was. The business of America is business. You know, and that's sort of the way he always described it. And at the end of the day, the money's still coming in. When the PR hits start taking away from the money coming in, then you've got a real problem.
And that's going to be the advertisers. We know that's the big thing. When the advertisers, the big hitting advertisers are affected, that's when it affects your bottom line. And you just mentioned an advertiser that doubled down on the NFL. So.
And again, the big thing there is Calvin Coolidge, by the way, who said the business of America is business. Don't know why I didn't have all my Calvin Coolidge knowledge.
I remember voting for him.
Sure, we did. We got a lot done there. Pushed him over the Electoral College top, I think we did. So we'll try and avoid Calvin Coolidge references for the rest of the show.
I would say so.
That might be the best thing we could possibly do.
One's enough.
Yeah, one per month is probably enough. Good. The over-under on the Calvin Coolidge line,
good.
We've satisfied our requirement for the rest of 2017. When we come back here, coming up next, a questionable play, a potential crushing injury, the snow game, and are we seeing another head coach that may be on the way out the door?
Boy, you know it's coming, but it's always a bummer when someone's about to lose their job, but you know it's right there on the horizon.
We'll get into that when we come back. It is Golic and Wingo on a Monday morning. So much to get to as football dominates the space. There aren't many memories that top the excitement of waking up on Christmas morning. Now that we're older, you can still capture a piece of that joy by surprising everyone on your list with peppermint roses from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, 1-800-Flowers will give you an extra half dozen roses and a vase absolutely free. That's up to 40% off the original price. Peppermint roses are the perfect holiday surprise for the special people on your list. This beautiful bouquet in a rush of holiday white and red roses will leave your loved ones stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. Amazing roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers.com are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, plus another half dozen roses and a vase for free. It's an unreal deal, but it expires Wednesday. There's 1-800-Flowers.com, and then there's everybody else. You know who I trust and depend on for life's most important moments. To order 12 peppermint roses for $29.99 plus another half dozen roses and a vase for free, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. Hurry, offer expires Wednesday.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Glad you're hanging out with us on a Monday morning as we get closer and closer to the holidays. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 as Mike is very thirsty for the...
Hydration is key
for the viewers on ESPN2.
Hydration is key.
Goodness gracious.
Right? That was full after.
Like it just came off a series.
That was aggressive, wasn't it?
I feel like you just ran a wind sprint or something the way you were chugging that water. Or whatever
just finished the series in the snow. I was thirsty.
There you go. Well, you just scooped up some snow.
That's true, too.
We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And then you get guys like Ryan Clark. Joins us in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay. There's been debate about this, which I was shocked at. But apparently some people do not like snow football. Yes or no, Ryan? Snow football.
Absolutely.
And you're
love
from
it.
Louisiana.
Absolutely love it. You know why? Because people can only run straight and they don't throw the ball well. So I absolutely, when Troy and I would be pulling up to the stadium, if it was snowing, we were the happiest people walking into Heinz Field. We dang near held hands and skipped down the tunnel because we were so excited about what the day would look like.
By the way, one of the greatest snow games I ever saw in attendance in person was at Heinz Field. It was Steelers-Chargers in 2000.
I remember.
The only 11-10 game in NFL history. And it should have been a different score because there was an interception. I think Troy Polamalu.
They were trying to lateral.
Yeah.
He knocks it down, scores.
And they didn't allow the score. The only 11-10 game in NFL history. Chappie and I were there for that one. That was crazy.
Snow games are great, except for wide receivers, running backs, probably O-line. I have two reasons now. One, everybody got down to my level, which was good.
Helps.
I mean, without question. And number two, I thought was the most important one. What's the one thing, if you have a bad play on Sunday, you know it's a bad play. What does everybody think about?
The film the next day.
It's exactly right. You never had in that Buffalo game. They're not worrying about that.
You're
not getting yelled at. Plus, no coach is going to yell at you. What happened to your technique there, coach? I was playing in a foot of snow. You're not getting yelled at. I mean, you are so off the hook of getting yelled at. And as a player,
That's
love
a good feeling.
that.
Hey, you already know when your play's coming up, when you're like two plays out, you're like.
I'm telling you, isn't it the
wonder
truth?
If they'll miss it.
As I said, I keep trying to relay this to people. If there's one play in the first quarter, 3 plays in the third quarter, you're like, oh, God. Or if it's in the fourth quarter, you're like, please don't get to it.
Right.
Go too long in the film session where you don't get to it.
And there's never enough plays to erase that one out of your mind. No matter what you do the whole day, that's the one you wait on.
And then you just pray they only show it over like 5 times and not 10 times.
Yeah, not slow it down with the coach's
Please
clicker.
move on. Please move on.
Oh, you're getting the arrow and everything. You're getting the laser right here, guys.
It's horrible.
The only good thing, like for the really good players, at least on our team, they would never say their names. They'd be like, hey, guys, right here at safety, you can't do that. This is not what you can do.
They wouldn't say Ryan Clark, number 25.
Oh, they'd say me.
Yeah.
There was another guy I played with.
And let's understand, I had Buddy Ryan as a coach.
Yeah.
So he called you by number and then called you some other things as well.
He added some names to your name.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
As Ryan Clark is here with us. All right, there's a lot to get into, but let's start with one of your old teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, what they've been doing these last 3 weeks has been ridiculous. Is Chris Boswell now officially a member of the Killer Bees?
Oh, he has to be.
Right?
I mean,
he's the
most important one, actually, right now.
But here's the question. Look, they won the division. They got the huge showdown coming up this weekend with the New England Patriots in Pittsburgh. And we're assuming that if New England wins tonight on the Monday night game against the Dolphins, they'll have the same record, which means this will determine, in all likelihood, who has home field advantage throughout the AFC. Are you seeing enough out of Pittsburgh on both sides of the ball to believe that they can they can take down the New England Patriots.
Offensively, I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
I think this is what we've been expecting for the last couple of years out of these guys. Defensively, I don't. If you
It's
go,
a problem.
Yeah,
right
if you go back to the Detroit Lions game, at that point they had given up 13 plays of 20-plus yards. The next 4 weeks, they give up 17. They're not tackling on the back end like they have been. And it was obvious last night, not having Shazier. I'm sure emotionally it's a toll on the team. But the dude can flat out play.
Yeah.
He's a sideline linebacker, a guy who can cover backs and tight ends out of the backfield. And you don't just replace people like that, much less athletes and players. And so Tom Brady has always been tough for us to stop. Even when I was there, we were number one defense. We might average 17 points a game defensively, and he'd score 40.
Right.
He always kind of understood where the spots in the zones were, and so they tried to change things up. But you can't go into a game against the New England Patriots giving up big yardage like they are on defense.
No,
I don't think you win that way.
You can't. They never gave up over 20 points this season till the last 3 games, over 20 in each game.
Right.
They gave up. They have a lot of sacks this year. They're second in the league with 41, so we know that's a key to playing New England is hitting Brady. Because
get him off his spot.
Brady is he's going to go down and live to fight another play. So they have to do that. But if a quarterback's able to throw in rhythm on the secondary, then you're not going to get to the quarterback in time. So I agree with Ryan. That's a legitimate worry for the Steelers, especially over the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
It's how you're trending toward the end of the season,
That's what
how
matters.
you're playing.
Well, listen, you mentioned Shazier, and obviously there's been some guarded optimism, some improvement over the last couple of weeks. There was this great emotional moment after the game where they FaceTimed Shazier in the hospital, and it was very cool. Let's take a listen and look at this.
I was there. You say,
oh, yay, babe.
All right, so that was the Steelers FaceTiming Shazier with him in the hospital. And first of all, it's just great to see Ryan. Great to see him. Great to see him with a smile on his face. And obviously that was a big lift to him. And Shazier was everywhere in that stadium last night. He was everywhere. It was an amazing thing to see.
Mm-hmm. So probably the last guy to be in that position in Pittsburgh is me.
Yeah.
The last guy, myself dealing with my actual mortality, but also my football mortality. And I know that team. I know those people. Coach Gary Guimont, who was the strength coach, called me right after they played Cleveland one night. Hey, man, what do you want? I was like, I just want some Boston Market, and drives that over. And every trainer coming to the hospital, the defense being in there every day. And so that team, that family, that band of brothers knows how to rally around a teammate, a friend, better than any organization in the world. And so just watching that, it made me teary-eyed because I know what he's feeling, what he's going through, and how much it means that they still care that much about him.
And for people that maybe aren't familiar with your story, this was after the Denver game you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
You carried the sickle cell trait.
Right. The high altitude, it actually sent me into sickle cell crisis. And so, I lost my spleen, my gallbladder, and the story goes. But I just remember being in that hospital, watching them play, but having them care so much about me that no matter what the score was, what the game was like, it was important to show that I was still a part of the team. And so to see that, it makes me emotional because it brings me back to those times. And I know kind of, what he's going through. And so for that team to be able to, win the game, but also dedicate the game to him in the way that they did, it was amazing. I think the hard part for both the team and Ryan is, as we watch, we understand obviously what he means to them as a friend, but as a player, this is a guy that's been huge to this team. And so it's really sad to, have him in this position, facing not playing again, but also not getting the opportunity to see him on the field for us because he's such a great player.
Yeah, listen, and players are used to, in whatever sport, used to dealing with injuries in that sport. And in football, if you get hurt in knee, elbow, whatever, we know how long you're going to be out, and everybody deals with that. But when you deal with something like your situation or Ryan's situation, it's different, and it really goes to show what a family, a team is, because you do spend as much time or more sometimes with your teammates
during the season for sure,
and then your family. That's exactly right. And a lot of times, because I was in that position on a certainly a much worse scale than that, is who has to go in and fill in. Listen, backups are always ready to go. but somebody has to go in and fill in. When Jerome passed away, Jerome Brown, in the offseason, I was the guy. I was that rotating guy with me, him, and Mike Pitts. All of a sudden now, here I'm the starter filling in for a guy, forgetting, again, it was my teammate, it was my friend. So it's what you're talking about in the locker room is your friends,
Absolutely.
not just teammates, and you have to go in and fill in for that. It's because
hard,
it goes
man.
on, because you're playing the next game. You got the next practice. You got to go in. Someone's got to play.
Football
doesn't stop.
Yeah, football doesn't stop. I remember my first play in my first practice in college, and high school was different. Somebody went down to high school, everything stopped, everybody sat around. A guy goes down in training camp, and Jerry DiNardo was the head coach at the time, and he goes, move it up 10.
Yeah, exactly. Just move around the injured players.
And everybody walked around him, and practice continued, and my mind was blown. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And that's the thing, for the other 52 guys on this team, football has to go on, but it's no way to move on without thinking about someone you're so close to.
And now the Steelers can finally move on to that game that really Mike Tomlin's been talking about for 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah. Which is different for him.
I was very surprised.
It really is.
Why do you think he did that? Do you think he did that because he felt like the team needed to hear that?
Well, you know him well enough from watching him for years.
We'll own it. It's our mistake. We'll move on.
Exactly. So nothing he does isn't premeditated. It isn't well thought out. And I think that was, if he let that out, he did it on purpose.
Right.
He wanted that to be given to the team, given to the media, given to the world. And also, I think you get to a point, much like we see some of these great basketball players or some of these great coaches, where you just stop caring. Like, you stop caring about a template or how you feel people think things should be done, and you just kind of start to be yourself. I think he was just honest, because an honest man is looking forward to that. An honest man has marked it down on his calendar. We have talked about it for, I don't know, since they both got over those terrible starts where we were like, oh, my goodness, they might not be who we think they are.
And then how about, so moving on, that's a big game we're talking about. Then obviously another big game that we're talking about is you, and it's about where you are right now. Mm-hmm. You look at the Chiefs, who have lost 6 of their last 8, and the Chargers.
That's my team.
Who have won their last 4. So now they're meeting in Kansas City on Saturday night. Winners leading the division right now, and the Chiefs already won the first one, but they have the same record, so obviously if the Chargers win it here, they're leading that division. How do you see that one, and as far as, again, trending on how they're playing right now?
Well, obviously, I think the Chiefs got back to what the Chiefs need to do yesterday. They started running the ball with Kareem Hunt again. He gets 25 touches. He was 13 to 16 in the last 6 weeks. They had kind of gotten away from feeding him in the passing game, but when you watch the Chargers play, just you take away records, you take away what you thought at the beginning of the season when they couldn't make field goals to win games, they look like the scariest team in the AFC. When you see the way they rush off the edge, when you watch these corners make plays on the ball. And Phillip Rivers, who's always been, to me, one, the most competitive quarterback I've ever played against, and two, the most underrated.
The most competitive.
The most competitive. The most competitive in a way that you respect it, though. The trash talks, the dadgummits. You know what I'm saying?
Golly. He's not cussing you out much.
Yeah, the son of a biscuit eaters. I mean, all these things he comes up with, but he's in your face and he's playing, and so now to watch Keenan Allen come back off of injury and be better than he ever was before, see them be able to run the ball a little bit with Melvin Gordon, that's a scary team to me. And if the Chiefs get off of what they did yesterday, if Andy Reid doesn't continue to do that, I think the Chargers go into Kansas City, which is a tough place to win, and pull this off.
Well, again, they're trying to become only the second team in the history.
Who's the other one, Trey?
That would be the Chargers of 1992.
Yeah, how about it?
They started 0-4. They're going to do it in San Diego. They want to do it in L.A. as well. Then there's the other team in Pennsylvania. That game between the Rams and the Eagles yesterday just had the feelings of a heavyweight fight. Both teams unload. I mean, I thought for a lot of that game, you were seeing the Eagles use a lot of the plays that the Rams had been using, with the motion of the wide receivers going 3 different ways and throwing it back to the other side.
Yeah.
It was like they were stealing from their playbook. And then obviously they come back and get the win after being down in the fourth quarter, but they lose Carson Wentz potentially for the rest of the season. They're waiting to get an MRI on him today. They fear it's a torn ACL in that left knee. How does that change everything, in your opinion, of what can be accomplished by the Eagles?
Well, it changes it in this fact. Carson is very good at second chance plays, improving, making plays outside of the pocket. It's a reason why he's injured now, and we've seen those things. I don't think it changes necessarily the playbook, but it will change the play calling. When you have 3 running backs like they do, they usually kind of play off of each other. You let Carson make some throws, and then you get the running game going. I think the running game is going to have to lead this team now. But Nick Foles is a guy who started in this league. Yeah. Nick Foles is a guy who in 2013 played extremely well, 27 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's not going to be that dude, but I think he can definitely have this team in competition to win games. The scary part is this. If you look at the Minnesota Vikings, you feel look pretty good. I mean, Nick Foles, Case Keenum, you're like, oh, it's like the same guy, just different teams. But when you get down to the Seattle Seahawks, when you get down to the Saints and the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers with all these proven quarterbacks, what will it look like then? Will you need those extra plays Carson Wentz can make? And that's going to be what gets them over the hump if Nick Foles is able to make those plays against those
I think
teams.
he has a lot of weapons to get the ball to. My issue is the lack of mobility as compared to Carson Wentz, who's been sacked 28 times, and the pass rush. Because remember, you're not dealing with Jason Peters. He's been gone. They went through 3. They used 3 left guards yesterday. So let's see where that line is and protection, because you have a guy, Nick Foles, who's more of a statue back there, where Carson is going to create something for you. So that, to me, is one of the big worries. So they're going to really rely even more if they can get it going on that running game to help the play action.
Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive save an average of 500 beans. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. And if Wentz is gone for the year, and again, we're waiting on the MRI, it certainly doesn't look good. The Eagles are expecting, I think, bad news. It goes to this list, guys, of players that are gone for the year in the NFL, whether it's J.J. Watt, Eric Berry, Deshaun Watson, Julian Edelman, Andrew Luck, Richard Sherman, now Ryan Shazier. I mean, it feels like, and that's just a partial list, it feels like this year, more than ever, we've had the name players, the star players go down in boatloads. Does it feel that way to you guys?
It does. It does for sure. I think it helps that we cover it so well now and we see so much. But I can't remember a year that this many marquee guys were out for the season, not just miss a game, not just miss a couple of weeks. And I think it's a testament, though, to what Golic and I were talking about earlier. Football is still being played. We're still tuned in. We continue to watch. And last night I was supposed to go on SVP, but I was bumped because the game took too long. And, they asked me, what was my biggest takeaway? And my biggest takeaway from this season and from yesterday is that backup quarterbacks are really important.
Yeah.
Right? If you're the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck doesn't play at all, that's important. If you're the Minnesota Vikings and Case Keenum has the year he has off the bench, that's important. And so you see all these different teams who are having to go to their backup quarterback, and whether or not this guy can play changes the complexion of your season, and we've seen that more this year than ever.
One of the biggest ones is Brett Hundley.
Absolutely.
Them getting that win for Green Bay over the winless Browns up by 14 in this one. Couldn't hold it, lose. Now we may get Aaron Rodgers back.
And I had just Lloyd Christmas the Browns against the Packers. I was like, guys.
You did.
I'm saying there's a chance.
Oh, you're telling. Oh, I see. Listen. I wanted that to be Ryan Clark with us on Golic and Wingo here. I wanted that to be the case, but I had a feeling they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way. And then I got worried because when Hundley, he didn't stretch the ball over the goal line. I thought, oh my, they may run out of time. But then he threw that perfect throw.
It was.
Right?
It was.
You know what? You know what's been amazing to watch for me, and I would love to pay attention to it as it goes forward. Devontae Adams has been huge for Brett Hundley and the Green Bay Packers.
Absolutely.
We have barely seen Jordy Nelson.
No, that's exactly right.
As Aaron Rodgers comes back, does Jordy Nelson now become another factor? Now you have Devontae Evans, who has proven he could be a 1. Jordy Nelson, who we know has been a 1 in this league. Does that make them more formidable with Aaron Rodgers, or does it kind of go back to Jordy's Aaron's guy and we'll call plays for Devontae? Because if both of those guys get going, this team could be trouble.
Man, if you see Rodgers running on that field, how great is that going to be? And really quickly on the other side, there are some that don't think he should have gotten another chance. Either way he did. Josh Gordon is a talent. If Josh Gordon can get his life in order, and if it is in order now, keep it in order, that's obviously the most important thing. But, man, there has never been denying his talent on the
I've played
football
against
field.
him, and this one he was younger and less muscular than he is now. But he is an impressive specimen.
Mm-hmm.
He's tall, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, he can catch the football, and so he's one of those guys. And that you root for now that he's gotten this chance, you root for him to do the right things, be on the right track. One, for his life.
Yeah.
You want his life to go in the right direction. But two, he makes the league better when he's playing, and also the Cleveland Browns a ton better than they are without him.
Golic and Wingo presented by Amazon. Amazon's got millions of toys and games to choose from this holiday for kids of all ages. Check out Amazon today. As Ryan Clark wrapping up here with you. Okay, seismic games coming up this weekend, and we'll get into that as the week goes on. But as you look forward in the NFC with the injury to Wentz, the loss by the Rams, the loss by the Vikings, where do you see the power shift in the NFC right? Because I think it's pretty clear in the AFC. Yeah. If the Chargers get in, they might be scary, but it's really the Steelers and the Patriots
exactly.
with a heavy lean toward New England because of history. But where do you see that? Where do you feel like when the dust is all settled, this might be the team in the NFC?
As an NFL analyst, you guys have been doing this much longer than me. Is it ever okay to say, I have no stinking idea?
No, absolutely.
No, I'll be honest. Week to week, I'll watch certain teams, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, they are unbelievable. This is going to be the team to beat. And then the next week, I'm like, oh, maybe not. When you look at this, and I've always tried to lean on the quarterbacks, and this is a year that you really can. I watched the Thursday night game, and Matt Ryan does all he can to lose the game.
Right.
And then Drew Brees loses it for the Saints. And so when you watch these teams, I still think Minnesota, if they can stay healthy, Xavier Rhodes got a little bit banged up yesterday. I still think Minnesota is the toughest team in this division because of the way they can play defense, but also because of the chemistry Case Keenum has created with that wide receiving core. Now more than ever, though, it seems that having home field is going to be important, especially with Philadelphia now having to go with Foles. If Minnesota can somehow get that top spot, if Philadelphia falters a little bit, I think Minnesota is the team that has the best chance to come out of the NFC.
And that's why that game was so important for the Rams, because they would have had the number one seed at that point. And they got to go up to Seattle now, and they're in a dogfight to avoid being a wild card.
Right. And who wants to go chase Russell Wilson?
Nobody.
That's the truth. And there's nothing wrong with saying you have no idea right now, because you can make a case for Philly, for New Orleans, for Carolina,
absolutely,
for Minnesota, for the Rams, for Seattle. I mean, they all have their pluses and minuses. So, I mean, everybody's guess is as good as ours right now.
This is going to be a really fun sprint to the finish.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. RC, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, guys.
NFL Live today. Get ready. He always does his Sunday best on NFL
You
Live.
already know it, brother. My favorite part of the day.
The best looking outfits. And please talk about the Cam
Shriner's hat?
Yeah.
Oh, you know it's on there.
Yeah.
You know it's on there, buddy.
Agrabah rocks.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP, and EasyPay. Activation and early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF 001121, Louisiana F1639.
There were lots of great games, amazing comebacks, some injuries, obviously, and a lot of controversy around the NFL on Sunday, including the end of the Seahawks-Jacksonville game. But a lot of people were really concerned, Mike, about what happened to Texans quarterback Tom Savage in that game against the 49ers and how his injury was handled.
Yeah, I mean, with Tom Savage hitting the ground and then kind of rolled over and you saw his arms in the air, and when they showed the replay, it kind of honed in on him, and in slow motion you could see his hands shaking. The ref was right there. He did go off the field. He went under the blue tent in there, and then he went back out on the field. He was cleared in there and went back out on the field for another series, and then was reevaluated and taken into the locker room, and that was the end of his day. And there's a lot of people looking at that hit, looking at his reaction, saying, how in the hell can a guy who landed like that and looked like that end up back on the field? And we have the whole concussion protocol from the initial, when you think someone's hurt, to getting back onto the field, to where it goes from there. And And there is no doubt there seemed to be a breakdown here. It's a matter of figuring out where you think the breakdown was.
Right. And by the way, our Kevin Seifert has posted on Twitter a huge article on everything that is sort of going place. Here's sort of how the policy works, and we'll break it down. In the beginning, it begins with the positioning of 4 independent and dedicated medical professionals. 2 certified athletic trainers sit in a booth above the field looking basically as spotters when they see something wrong. Mm-hmm. And then a dedicated radio connection to the sidelines. Each team is also assigned an unaffiliated neurological consultant who works along with the team doctor. And unaffiliated is important because they don't want it to be someone related to the team. They want someone who's a neutral observer, for lack of a better term. And one of the questions that we had and that we had an issue with is, do they have the video that we're seeing? Because when you saw Tom's arms lock up like that, it's called like a fencing pose. Sometimes that's what it referred to.
A fencing response is called when you see like the fencers have their arm, because you talk about boxers or MMA guys when they get knocked out, their arms may be up like that, or sometimes one arm is up and one arm is not. In his case, they were both kind of up. So that's it. Fencing response is kind of the term that was used.
Okay, so then they see that, and he came off the field, and they had the initial test. And the initial test is in that little blue tent, okay?
Right. And it's called they're given Maddox questions. It's a standard part of sports concussion test that, for example, could include asking a player to recite months in reverse order or to complete a word recall exercise. So that's what they're doing in that tent. But there's something else that can go on in that tent that you wonder if this is where the breakdown was.
Exactly. The policy then suggests that at best periodically checking in with that player again, because it says here many concussions can have a delayed onset. And that's sort of what happened with Tom Savage here. He passed those initial if the protocol was followed, he passed the initial test in the tent. That's what Bill O'Brien said after the game, the head coach, and then he went back in. But later they found that he had some secondary issues, and that's when they took him into the locker room.
Right. So the thing where I said it may get a little dicey is because we asked the question earlier. We all saw it on TV as a replay, and we said, what can they see? What are they allowed to see? And it turns out in the booth, the spotters do have a video where they can see replays, but also on the sideline in that tent, they have the ability, or maybe not in the tent, but the policy also calls for video review of the hit, a place where the treatment of Savage might have broken down. And it focused on the neurological exam that includes a spine exam as well. But basically, they can look at it on the sideline. No coaches or anybody can look at any replay because they're not allowed to. But the doctor on the sideline can look at the hit and therefore see the reaction of the hit as well. Yeah. So they can see that with both the spotters and both the independent doctor on the field. And did you look at that again? This is where I'm not a doctor, and you get that fencing response, as they say. Does that make it more of a to we need to take more control of the situation and not do this Maddox questions, which they felt he passed them enough to go back onto the field.
Well, that's the thing, because if you see that Maddox, that fencing response, if you're a boxer, you're out. That's when they know you're out, and you know what happens? The fight's over.
Yeah,
the fight's over. And the fact that wasn't enough, I think, to go and do what is the sort of deeper test.
Yeah, when they go into the locker room, it's called the SCAT-5. Right. That's another standard concussion test they do. It's a little more involved, but that's if you have to go into the locker room. Then they go into that protocol.
So the question then becomes, if you see someone with that fencing protest, wouldn't you want to take the deeper dive under the SCAT-5 as opposed to just do the Maddox questions?
Well, I think that's going to be the question that comes up right now, is to the doctors, to the team doctor, and the call for this is the team doctor. He can decide to put him back on the field, but the independent doctor can disagree on that, and then they're obviously going to have to have a conversation about it to whether he goes back on the field or not. So I think we're going to see, did the doctors look at the hit on the sideline? Right. Did they look at did the spotters up in the booth look at it? And if they did, call down and say, hey, this guy's reaction, was with the fencing response or whatever. Again, I don't know if that makes it more serious. It certainly looks bad. There's no doubt about it. So if you thought this broke down, if you thought he never should have been back on the field, where did this break down? And did it break down? You would have to think in the initial observation and the Maddox questions and whatever that initial testing was under the blue tent there to actually let him go back on the field again.
And the reason this is maybe a bigger issue, because it's not the first time we've sort of seen this happen. There was a Thursday night game between Seattle and Arizona where the referee rightly, or I think it was the referee in the game, thought Russell, he got hit under the chin,
right,
and he was sort of, closing his eyes and sort of rubbing his jaw, and they said, you need to go. Mm-hmm. So they got him off the sidelines. And they set up the medical tent,
right?
And he went in for a second,
right?
Didn't even get through the Maddox questions and came back out onto the field.
Yeah.
So now it's not just a one-time occurrence here, and I think that's the bigger concern people have going forward. Are we actually following this thing the way it's supposed to be set up?
Yeah, I mean, the other side of that is if there's any thought of a head trauma at all, that do they immediately go into the locker room? See, players will hate that.
Of course they will.
I remember watching Jason Witten one time. They wanted to take him into the locker room, and they took his helmet, and he lost it.
He was livid.
Because some players, we are getting into the day and age where some players are going to be okay with it or even self-report it, but for the most part, you're going to get players that are going to fight it. That's why you take their helmet. So if you... And I don't know if that's the next thing. Do you skip the sideline? Again, with every other injury, you see all injuries, you go into the blue tent.
Right.
But if it's deemed head trauma, do you immediately take them into the locker room? Players will complain and say, "Oh, listen, I just got my bell rung for a second. I'm okay, and I want to be back for the next series." Because if you go in the locker room, you're going to miss some time. So that's what the players are going to be are not going to want to just automatically go into the locker room. But is that where we should go with head trauma? The more we're learning, and if someone gets slammed on their head and they have that response or they're woozy, they get up like, they're a punch-drunk boxer, do you just say, you know what, we're not even going to the tent. We're going right into the locker room. I don't know if we're going to end up there or not, but I'm sure it's going to be something talked about.
Well, look, the SCAT-5 test is a standard concussion assessment tool published by the International Concussion in Sport Group. In essence, it's a more comprehensive test. And if it is about player safety, that sounds like that would be the first way to go. Let's make sure we go through the most thorough test we can find. But you're right. Look, it's a mess. And what we saw happen Sunday in Houston just added to that mess. And it's got to be something that's got to be taken a little more seriously than I think not only some of the players. I mean, like Russell went out of that tent. He was out of that tent in 2 seconds.
Yeah, but see, I'll say it again. Don't rely on the players to make that decision.
The whole point of this is to take it out of the players'
We can sit there and say the players need to be smarter about it, and I get it. But you know what? There's a difference of a player who's a superstar who may do that to a player that's a backup fighting for a spot that says, I can't leave the field. I may never get back on.
Right.
Don't ask them to think rationally about it.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
A little Monday night action. The New England Patriots are playing the Miami Dolphins and doing so without both Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski, who's serving his game suspension. Tom Brady, without both of them on the field, his touchdown to interception ratio goes down a little bit.
It does.
With Tom Brady since 2010, with Edelman and Gronkowski on and off the field. With him on the field, 236 touchdowns, 47 interceptions.
Yeah.
And with them off the field, 21 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So a little more with those guys off the field.
Well, that certainly would be understandable because Gronk is a freak of nature.
Yes, he is.
He's a physical mismatch against almost everybody he plays. Again, Monday Night Football tonight, Patriots at Dolphins, 8:30 on ESPN. Spanish language broadcast available on ESPN2. It's also streaming on the app. You can watch it there. It just seems like we're one win away here from the Patriots for the showdown we've all been waiting for, Week 15. Patriots in Pittsburgh with home field advantage on the line. Can you make the case for the Dolphins upset?
I'm trying. Tom Brady is...
Besides geography.
How about this? Tom Brady is 7-8 career record in road games against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
With more losses in Miami than he has road losses against the Jets and Bills combined. So how about that?
Well, they've lost.
Does that help?
They've lost two out of the last three. I mean, two out of the last three. They've lost two straight down there in 2014 and 2015, and then they came back with that big win last season down there when Michael Floyd was making contributions. So it just the way the Dolphins are.
Does this help?
Try.
The Dolphins are one of 6 teams that Brady has faced at least 5 times on the road: Jets, Bills, Steelers, Colts, Broncos. And they are the only one that Brady has a losing road record against. That help?
No.
All right.
I mean, are you buying it?
No, I'm trying. I do have, because of the money, the way I spent my $50,000 on DraftKings. And,
so it all goes down
tonight,
to DraftKings. All right.
I had to take the lowest defense, which was, I have Miami's defense
against
tonight.
the Patriots.
Yes, but I had to take them where my money was set up. And
bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for you.
I don't think it's going to work out very well. I'm not sitting in a good position.
Well, look. If you go by anything of the last game, the Buffalo Bills defense got after the Patriots a little bit, and of course their offense couldn't do anything. The biggest turnaround for this Patriots team has been that defense. Through the first 6 games, people were marching up and down the field. I think since the first 6 weeks, they've given up the fewest offensive touchdowns. They've only given up 6. And this is a Dolphins team that's been shut out twice already this year.
Yeah, it's exactly.
With 2 different starting quarterbacks.
The bottom line is you want a chance in this one tonight, hit Brady.
Yeah.
You got to hit him. He's missed some practice this week. He's been getting hit this year, and that's the way, you talk about cutting off the head of the snake. That would be one. You knock him around a little bit, get him off his mark. That's what you have to do. You got to get some hits on him. You don't, you're in for a long night.
Well, that's the thing. He can decide he wants to play as long as he wants. At 40, he's been remarkable. And with Wentz, if he is out for the year, he's probably looking at the MVP award right now one more time. But if he, at some point, the physical toll will match up. He's already been sacked way more this year than he was all of last season. He's got the the sore Achilles that's limited in practice for a couple of weeks, and he wears the flak jacket. The only chance, is for him to keep getting battered the way he's been battered, and that's really the only chance I think that anybody has.
Can I try one more?
Sure.
Okay, they're a double-digit favorite.
Great.
All right. Best winning percentage as a double-digit favorite starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era. John Hadl is 28-2. Peyton Manning 41-3, Tom Brady 51-4. However, New England's last loss as a double-digit favorite came in Week 17 in 2015 in Miami.
See, really?
So how about that?
It's geography. The only thing we can say about this game is geography.
You picking Miami to win?
No. Are you?
No.
By the way, do you know what the word succumb means?
When you succumb to something, yes, you kind of give into it. You succumb to yes.
You succumb to it, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Well, your son was on the show the first hour.
He's a smart one. He's a smart one.
Wasn't he the academic All-American?
Academic All-American.
And then this is what he said.
Even he eventually succumbed to this.
So it's succumbed.
Yes,
it's not succumbed.
You can't succumb
unless
to anything.
the Golic dictionary.
Well, he did say you guys have a different dictionary, which I was not aware of.
We do have our own kind of verbiage because we have different months for different authors, and we do book reports and things like that.
Can you bring that dictionary in one of these days? I'd like to just go through the pages.
We're putting the finishing touches on it right now, and succumb is a word in there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, okay. When you finally succumb to bringing that in, I would be very happy to read that, and we'd all learn something.
Yeah, we all
want to learn something.
He just needs to let me misspeak.
Yeah. By the way, Golic's definition of succumb was, when you succumb. That you sort of use the word in the definition.
Yeah, when you succumb to something.
You can't use the word to define the word. It has to be a different word.
Who says?
Everybody. You can't say, hey, what does what mean? Well, it's when you say what. No, you have to use the word when you say you give in to something.
I succumb to your train of thought.
There you go. Victory! Victory! Finally! In the last 30 seconds of this show. Hey, I'm going to succumb to the idea that we're going to have to do this again tomorrow.
Yes, we are.
Which is really going to be a problem. We'll have the Monday night game. Hey, it'll be the huge geographical upset.
Oh, no.
It won't. But we got Tim Hasselbeck will be here.
Okay.
Louis Riddick will be here.
Oh, I like that.
And we'll see what happens. And, of course, we'll probably have some baseball and a big new rule in golf that we'll talk about.
Oh, all right.
Sanity has finally come to the sport. That's us, Golic and Wingo. We're succumbing to the clock.
Golf time.